So for those of you who joined us last time, we featured Brian Klashevitz, who discussed his work on how modified high-intensity exercise can be developed into a viable intervention to combat type 2 diabetes. It was a really wonderful show. And I think we made some more research connections, which is the whole goal here. My name's Phaedra Corso. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm Vice President for Research here at Kennesaw State. And our goal with these features is to highlight our outstanding faculty who do research here at KSU, and also to stay engaged as a community of scholars and researchers. We heard some news about our President Whitten this morning, and I will just tell you, I'm going to miss her greatly. I think all of us will. She was the brainchild behind this research with Relevance. That just goes to show you that she has her pulse on every single part of this university. She's going to do great things in Indiana, and we wish her all the best of luck. And we'll see how things continue here. So without further ado, we're going to get going. A few housekeeping tips before we start. Please make sure your mics are muted. If you become unmuted or unmiked at some point, we will try to press that button to prevent you from embarrassing yourself in any way. Second, if you want to focus on the specific speaker, you can click on the 3 little dots next to the person's name, and they should blow up full size on your screen. And then just to remind you, this session is recorded, as all of our sessions are, and will be available on YouTube sometime over the weekend. So the schedule for the next hour is we're going to watch a great video featuring our faculty member today, Sylvia Bhattacharya. There's Sylvia, I can see her. Yay! She's wonderful. For those of you who don't know Sylvia, it's going to be a pleasurable hour because she is really a research rock star here at KSU. So we're super excited that she's here. We are going to start with a video like we always do, and then after that, we're going to switch over to the answer and question section of the show. I'm going to start off with questions because, you know, I've got a couple that I pull out of the bag every single time, but really it's more fun if the audience asks questions. So please feel free to either raise your hand and I'll call on you. You can put your questions in the chat function, or you can just interrupt me. I can handle all 3 types of questioning. So with that, I'm going to mute and I'm going to turn it over to Heather, who's going to play the video for us.
My name is Sylvia Bhattacharya. I am an assistant professor of electrical engineering technology in the Southern Polytechnic College of Engineering and Engineering Technology. I entered the engineering field because of my passion for mathematics. I am originally from India, and parents there heavily motivate their kids towards science education from a very early stage. This is likely because there is already too much competition in other fields due to the huge population. If children perform well in the science subjects in school, parents expect them to either pursue medical or engineering careers. My parents wanted me to become a medical doctor. However, I always excelled in math and even had a better score on the engineering entrance exam. Although I did not pursue medical school, my parents were very supportive of my choice. I was accepted into a very good engineering school where I decided to pursue biomedical engineering because I also loved theoretical physiology. While on a family vacation to Europe the next year, I visited Oxford University. Being in that environment ultimately motivated me to pursue higher education abroad. I concluded that the United States was the best option for pursuing advanced degrees in engineering. So I moved to the US in 2014 to pursue a master's degree at Georgia Southern University and then completed a PhD at Florida State University. I believe this move was one of the best life decisions I made. I have fulfilled the dream of becoming Dr. Bhattacharya after all, and my parents are extremely proud of the work that I do. They have told me that I chose the right path, achieving so much more beyond their expectations. Now I am in my second year as an assistant professor in the Southern Polytechnic College of Engineering and Engineering Technology at KSU. In 2020, I was awarded research funding from the US Army, which is the highest funding a single principal investigator has obtained in our college. This project's focus is to conduct research in the area of human autonomy teaming in combat vehicles, which directly aligns with my doctoral dissertation. My PhD research investigated a novel approach for an AI-based driver behavior analysis model using visual and cognitive data. One area that has seen a persistent and long-term flurry of research and development in my field is that of autonomous vehicle technologies. In both military and civilian domain, there is a clear intent to replace human drivers with advanced automated systems. This is, of course, precipitating a shift towards humans experiencing vehicles from the primary perspective of being a passenger. While decades of research have provided vast amounts of data regarding vehicle drivers, very little is known about how people experience being a passenger in a vehicle that do not control, as well as how their changing states are manifest in both anticipatory and reactive responses at all levels from physiological to behavioral. Whether driven by another human or via automation, passengers have regular opportunities to make decisions regarding ongoing driving performance. And in many cases, these decisions lead to both beneficial and harmful attempts at interventions. For example, a verbal warning to a human driver or a takeover from automated cruise control. Such passenger behaviors may critically impact vehicle behavior. More importantly, when and how they occur is likely to be subject to a variety of factors, such as individual decision making style, driving preferences, level of fatigue, risk tolerance, and personality. In particular, human decisions regarding cooperative behaviors, such as reliance and compliance, are believed to be significantly impacted by the amount of trust held in the paired agent, whether human or automated. Moreover, endeavors to understand the individual factors that lead to passenger states like trust and stress will likely inform the design of intelligent vehicle systems capable of responding to, if not also anticipating, individual passenger needs and preferences. By enabling vehicle understanding of passenger states and intentions, we may begin to develop technologies that support and address human autonomy teaming challenges and solutions that undergird our capabilities for achieving transformational overmatch in the evolving future of complex multi-domain operations. This research aims to gain new insights into role-based human variability, contributing to interpersonal driver-passenger interactions under the real-world conditions of a vehicle traveling in regular traffic. Both inter and intra-individual sources of variability on short and long time scales are of interest, including differences indexed by trait questionnaires, variability due to the emotional balance of communication, and the frequency of interpersonal interactions within the dyad outside of the experimental sessions. Our interdisciplinary approach will thereby provide new insights into the experience of people who are passengers within the vehicles that do not themselves control while traversing actual roads in natural traffic conditions. This experiment will identify conditions that improve or diminish communication between passengers and drivers, as well as related factors that underlie the development of passenger trust in the driver that may arise from naturalistic fluctuations in cognitive state, which may further inform the design of intelligent communication systems in support of operational human agent teaming.
Great. Thank you. Thank you to our folks who are responsible for putting this video together, Tom Boyle in our office. And we also have a wonderful student assistant that's been helping us this semester, Dorothy Corbett. So thank you to Dorothy. Very interesting research, Sylvia. Thank you. That was pretty awesome. I realized as your video started playing that I didn't introduce you. I didn't say where you went to school. I didn't say what college you were in. I have a whole script in front of me and I missed all of it. But the video so nicely talked about your kind of your pathway. So so I don't feel too badly. So sorry about that. All right. Well, let's just jump straight into the questions, right? So you're an engineer. What kind of engineer are you?
So I did my undergraduate in biomedical engineering, and then I moved to electrical engineering in my master's. And my PhD is also in electrical engineering. But my dissertation and thesis heavily focus on biomedical signal processing.
Because the research that I thought I'm understanding seems to be, I don't know, psychosocial. I mean, you're I don't know. Can you explain to me kind of what data you're collecting and how that plays into what an engineer might have the expertise to look at?
Sure. I think that's a great question, Fedra, because I guess in general, many people have this question about how engineers contribute to behavioral science, right? So the fact is psychologists and biosignal scientists work very closely on behavioral applications. So psychologists heavily rely on the subjective analysis side, like the inputs from subjects using survey and questionnaires. As engineers, our strength is conducting precise measurements. So we contribute to these behavioral problems with specific biosensor measurement techniques, which is independent of the subject's input. So my team is specifically looking at different physiological signals like brain signals, muscle signals, ECG, and heart rate. And we are using the unique features from these signals to design the real-time behavioral and the prediction model that is fast and accurate. And the speciality of our project is we are not just relying on psychological approach and not just one signal. We are considering multiple signals in this study and doing a multimodal fusion to build our model to make it like very strong. But the reason I said we work simultaneously with psychologists is because the feedback they provide from the subjects, right, are very important for us to validate our models.
So the military is interested in this work because, is it because they now have autonomous vehicles or they're moving in that direction? Like what I think there's so many applications to the future of driving, but I'm just particularly interested in knowing what the military is interested in, why they're interested in this topic.
Military is mainly interested to understand the trust between the autonomous system and the human. So we are moving to a world where, you know, there will be no human drivers in a vehicle, right? And in military perspective, the combat vehicles will be auto-driven. There will be no humans driving those vehicles. But the soldiers need to have immense trust with the AI system, right? Similarly, the autonomous system needs to understand the preferences of the soldiers and need to take decisions together. So the military is mostly interested in exploring the teaming perspective. They believe that AI alone cannot control several situations. Again, as human beings, if we have an agent, we have different kinds of strength. So just like collaboration between different departments, if human and agent collaborate together, we can achieve much better. So that's why they are particularly interested in understanding this perspective.
The whole concept of AI scares me to death. I feel like what you're telling me is AI is coming. It's about to control all these different things in our life. And so what you're helping the government do is help me work with this thing that is now going to control this major part of my current life, which is me driving my own car. So what exactly do you measure? And if you find, if I heard two words, trust and what was the other word? Stress. Okay, so if you find that I'm stressed for these different things, what does one do with that information? Do you recalibrate the autonomous piece to deal with my stress level? And can you work with couples?
That's a good question. Yeah, so stress measurement is very important in war situation. So if a soldier is stressed, it is the soldier might not be able to make very good decision. So the AI, if is able to understand the stress level of the soldier, it can help the team to make a decision that who should be taking lead for a particular decision or a particular action that needs to be performed. Similarly, trust. So they are together going for a mission, right? So there are several critical decisions that needs to be made. So there needs to be an immense trust between the agent and the soldiers. And that's what we are trying to understand by using the passengers as a sensor to understand as a human being, when we are passenger in a vehicle, when we do not have control in the vehicle, what are our preferences? And we need to communicate that back to the AI, and the AI should be also communicating those things with us.
How did you get into this work? I think of as, first of all, lots of funding in the world of defense, but not an easy nut to crack. We talked to Brian Moore a little bit about this when he did his show. How did you get in there?
So my PhD dissertation helped a lot for me to get into this. So I already worked on the AI-based driver behavior analysis model. I started from very scratch. So I did not know anyone in Department of Defense. And they usually work with the big universities like MIT, Stanford. But I decided I'll just go ahead and look the contact on their website. And I sent a general email with a one-page project description about what I do and what are my goals. And my question was, I would like to learn more about what US Army is looking for and if there is any potential collaboration to my area. And surprisingly, after a month, one of the teams reached back to me. They emailed me and said they would like to contact me, talk more, and learn about my interest. And when I started talking to them first time, they said, well, you already worked on a driver simulator data, right? Building this behavior model. Will you be interested in investigating a real world scenario, a real world data set that we have? And I was like, yeah, sure. And we met a couple of times. We brainstormed different ideas how we can use this basic science research towards Army application. And then they were the one who guided me that these are the proposal calls on the website. It's pretty much like NSF and NIH. It comes out open public. So you can apply to them. But the advantage is that because I started talking to the team, they definitely supported my proposal when I submitted it. And that's how it all started.
Listen, I really want you, when this show is over, I want you to reach out to Brian Moore because he's working on a proposal, and I think that you could fit into that very nicely, given the work that you're currently doing. And he needs to move fast on this. So that's just between us in parentheses. Please reach out to him. And I'll send him a note also. Okay, so let's ask a couple of other questions. So I know you have what you call your lab is the innovation lab, which I love. Tell me about students and how they are engaged in your work.
So I recruit both undergraduate and graduate students. Currently, I have 8 students, 2 undergraduate and PhD and master students working on the Army project. Besides Army project, we are also collecting other data in the lab, which is related to the transportation application. And I have a team of undergraduate students taking care of that. So yeah, so I have pretty much students from different departments. So as you can understand from my research topic, it's pretty interdisciplinary. So I have signal processing work, I have machine learning work, a lot of data analysis. So I recruit students from computer science, engineering, data science.
Do you have a physical space that you're using for your lab?
Yes. Yeah, I do have my physical space in Q building.
Okay, if I had $1 million to give you, which in parentheses I do not, but if I had $1 million, what would you do with it? You're in a. I love this line of research, but you're answering a call that the Department of Defense wants. What would you, Sylvia, do if you had unlimited resources?
If I have unlimited resources, I think the first thing that I want to do in KSU is to establish a transportation institute that focuses on these different aspects. And I will not be the only person working in that lab. Rather, I would like to engage other external and internal collaborators, especially in transportation area. There are so many faculties within KSU who are working, and I am collaborating with them on other proposals. So I would like them to be part of that. We definitely want to strengthen the equipments that we need. For example, I am currently building a 4D driver simulator in my lab. So we would like to have setups like that so that we can collect a lot more real-time and solid data set that KSU owns, and we don't have to depend on other organizations to do those kind of investigation.
You know, Sylvia, you are an incredible asset to KSU, and I hope that I can help you make that dream of a transportation institute a reality in the next couple of years, because I think you're right. There's so many other faculty that have expertise in this area that it's a good place for us to put our resources. What drew you to KSU in the first place?
So I joined KSU right after my PhD. The main reason I joined KSU is, first of all, the geographical location. That's perfect. It's just near Metro Atlanta. That was the first reason. I'm familiar to this region because I did my master's in Georgia Southern University. And the second thing is that I wanted to be in a university where I can grow along with the university. And now with the PhD program, you can see I joined in 2019, where we have an undergraduate program, we have some master's program, and in 2 years, I get to see a PhD program go, and I was part of the PhD proposal. So I think that was a really good decision I made, and that's how I chose KSU.
Yeah, I agree. When I talk to new faculty, like the ones we had in our PI Academy this year, you can hear it in people's voice that they have the entrepreneurial spirit and they like being on the ground floor of development, which is why I'm here too, for that matter. There's no place to go but up, and I'm happy to be part of that process. Right. I would love for others to jump in and ask questions. Your dean is on, and he is never shy with the questions. So so please jump in, anyone, or put your questions in chats if you have a question. Here comes Ian.
So my question, I like money, right? You know, I think most people do, and you've been successful. So maybe you can just unpack a little bit more how DoD agencies are not like NSF, where it's almost like you throw this proposal over to the program managers. Maybe just unpack a little bit more about your interaction with DoD, how much time it took, what you did during that, and at what point did you realize you were going to get funded? You talked about an open BAA, but those open BAAs are essentially there to fund people when they want. It isn't really a call, it's just a mechanism to fund. So maybe you can unpack that, because I'm sure there must be other people on this call who would like to raise some research funds.
Absolutely, I'll be glad to share that. So yes, so being consistent with communication with the team was very helpful for me. So when I approached Department of Defense, I showed how passionate I am for the work that I want to do, instead of just focusing on the fund. And that really interested them. They were like, okay, she's a new PhD student who joined as an assistant professor. She's from KSU, and she's not just running after money, but she's actually very passionate about the work that she wants to do. So I met with them, and I had, these meetings for almost 3-4 months. In the beginning, they were a little bit slow. They shared several informations, but they were also looking for, the supports and the resources that KSU can also provide to make this project happen. But the more they talk to me, right now they are like very good colleagues of mine, and they say what they realized is that, well, we can totally trust you. So developing that trust with the program officers is very important. And it took, as I said, like 3-4 months for me. In the beginning, things were slow. And when they had that confidence in me, they said, okay, why don't you go ahead and submit a proposal, which we are going to definitely support. And I think after 3 months, I was confident that I'm going to get funded by ARL. And initially, I thought it will be for 1 year. But then they said, okay, why don't you submit a proposal for 3 years? And now they are interested to even extend it for multiple years. And that's how it kept rolling.
I said, thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Sylvia, I just read the proofs of our new research magazine that's coming out. Doing a shameless plug for you, Joelle. So our research magazine is called The Investigator, and it should be hot off the press in a couple of weeks. So I'm happy to plug that. But there's a nice article in there about you, Sylvia, and I don't remember all the details, but it's something about a women in engineering club. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, that's one of my favorites. So I applied for this Google Explore CSR award, and I received it last year, which involves some funding. And my proposal was basically Computing to Change the World for Better, a research-focused mentorship program for women. And today is actually the last day of the program. We started it in December 2020. So we recruited around 50 women all over the campus, not just engineering students, but also students from other departments who are interested in computing research and education. So the main motivation and the goal of the program is to motivate these women to pursue graduate study and research. So as we know, there is always a gap in gender, and we want more women to join engineering program. We also found out that we need more women to pursue higher education. That's very important. And especially with everything going autonomous, even psychologists, people in other disciplines like statistics, biology, they are using machine learning algorithms for several of their works. So it's very important for us to promote computing education and research. So that's all this particular program focuses on. So we have a group of mentors, female mentors who are mainly graduate students. We have a lot of undergraduate mentees, and we even have mentors from Google who actually mentored these students, and they worked on hands-on project, machine learning projects with Google Vision Kit. And so the main reason I said I'm really excited about is that we could involve a lot of women all over the campus. We could go beyond engineering, and we realized that so many women, even those who are not in engineering fields, are so much excited to pursue computing research and education. So, yeah.
So is there a way to measure some outcomes for that program to show your success? Like, do you have some undergrads who are committing to go to graduate school because of this program?
That is a survey that we are going to conduct after this program, and Google has already conducted a pre-survey before the program started to understand, their knowledge and their interest level for research and graduate studies. And once we finish the program today, we are going to do a post-survey to understand how many students are actually now thinking of joining a graduate school. And so that's how we are going to work on understanding how it really affected everyone, and how is it helpful in the next few months?
Don't forget, we've got chat open if you want to ask some questions. Are there any questions from the audience? Here comes Ian.
I can ask a question if nobody else wants to jump in. What would you say is, in terms of your research in the autonomous vehicles part, what's the hardest problem that you think you need to solve to move that area forward?
I think the hardest problem, according to me, especially in the area that I'm investigating, is communication between the agent and the human, because we currently don't have a defined pathway for it. I'm currently collaborating with some external faculties on a NSF proposal, and when we started doing our literature review, we can understand that the AIs are very much advanced nowadays, but does humans really have the trust for those AIs? And many people don't, especially the elderly people, right? They don't want to like learn new technologies in a car, and they will be panicking. Well, I don't have a control in the car. I don't want to sit in this car. And so if we go to the root that why people are panicked, the reason is there is no clear conversation between the AI and the human. If we have an unknown human driver, you can say the driver, please drive slow, but we currently don't have a pathway to communicate with the AI. So that, I guess, is the biggest challenge right now, and many scientists are working to solve that issue.
Right, thank you.
So, but this is not my field, so these questions may be completely silly or stupid, but what do you mean we don't have communication? I talk to Siri and she talks back to me. So what is the difference there? Can't we imagine that there would be an AI in the driver's seat that I could talk to, and they would be able to decipher whatever the decision making or whatever I'm trying to convey to them?
So that's a very actually interesting question, not a silly question. So Siri is good in understanding few accents. We still have a lot of limitation, right? The AI systems still don't understand every accent. So that is something we need to improve. But other than just communicating with each other, there can be several situations where decisions need to be made very quickly, especially for army applications, right? And we might not have enough time for a questionnaire, the agent asking question to a human being, right? We need to look at the physiological behavior of the passenger to understand the preference, the state of the passenger, what is the passenger going through. And that is the biggest challenge at this point. We can definitely have a natural language processing mechanism where we can have a slow paced question answer thing, but we are focusing more in scenarios where, for example, a passenger suddenly have a heart attack, right, in the car, or going through some kind of medical issues, and he's not able to communicate that with the agent. Will the agent be able to understand what the passenger is going through and take a decision on behalf of the passenger? So that's what I exactly mean by communication.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good, thank you. There's a question in the chat from Mark Guile. It says, expanding on Ian's question, AI technologies rely on replicating human decision-making, but also replicating the human's ability to sense the environment and make decisions. Is it more difficult to engineer the control mechanisms or the sensing mechanisms?
That's a good question. So replicating human decision making, yeah, definitely we are replicating natural intelligence to construct the artificial intelligence. It's difficult for us to rely on one biosignal, on one signal to have a control and make precise decision, or a motion planning or something. And that's the reason we are considering multimodal fusion. So it's not just engineering working here. We have psychological approach, we have engineering approach, and everything together is making the decision. When it's a real-time scenario, right? In a real-time road, we can't just rely on one system. There can be a system failure, right? For example, in one application, the brain signal might be really good in predicting few things, right? But that might not be the best way to do it. Maybe the eye tracking will be a faster and easier way to work in that kind of application. So as an engineer, it's definitely hard to handle a lot of signals, but we want to focus on the best features from different signals to put everything together to make the best prediction as possible.
So Sylvia, are you working with anyone over in the Wellstar College? That question came from the Associate Dean for Research, and you're talking about biomarkers, which Brian Klashevitz talked about 2 weeks ago. So it seems like there's a natural linkage there.
Yeah, so I am currently not yet working with anyone from the Wellstar College, but I know some of the faculties reached out to our department chair and we decided to meet and talk more. But I actually went to the Wellstar College, especially for my class. I was teaching biomedical instrumentation, and I thought the nursing college has a lot of biomedical instruments and students can have those hands-on experience. So that's how I am connected with them, but not yet in terms of research. But that's something I want to do. And I want to reach out to the faculties who are interested in probably helping us with this kind of research.
Ian, did you have another question?
I was actually going to call on her department chair, David Stolberg, who I see is online, and he might have a question to ask. David.
Hi. You had to put me on the spot, huh? Well, I could ask a quick question, I guess. Sylvia, how was the transition from your work at under your PhD to the work at KSU? What's been well, how has that been, and what's been the most positive thing, and what was the most challenging thing?
So, Dr. Stolberg, did you mean like? I mean, I was a student in Florida State, and now I'm working. I think that's a very big transition. And
yeah, right.
Yeah. So is that your question? Is?
Yeah. Well, basically, but whenever someone starts as an assistant professor and the new challenges, especially at KSU with our infrastructure, I was just wondering what you felt was the biggest challenge. I think you alluded to it a little bit earlier, in that now we've got a PhD program on the way, but I was wondering what your sense was coming from straight from graduate school and into this program.
So the first thing that I would like to highlight is that I thought PhD is the most hard time in a person's life. But when I joined as an assistant professor, I realized, wow, time is so precious. In PhD, I was just working on one project, and right now I have to handle so many projects. I got one funding from Army and I have one project running. That doesn't mean I'm done with that. I'm working on so many projects at a time. So I think that's the biggest challenge. I was lucky that I had some grant writing experience in my PhD that helped me to start writing here. The Office of Research is very helpful. Dean Ferguson actually had a lot of meeting with the new faculties that really helped, and he gave a lot of advice on how to start writing proposals. So I just kept following everything. In terms of infrastructure, I think KSU is very well equipped. And the best thing that I would like to highlight is that the faculties and the departments in KSU are really helpful in terms of collaboration. So whenever I reached out to other departments, they were so welcoming, and that really helped me to, start so quickly right after PhD as an assistant professor.
Great, thank you. And just overall, thank you for all the hard work you've done. Many don't realize Well, this is a question. How many proposals have you written over the time you've been here? The yield is always an interesting thing in my research, and how many proposals I write versus how many I win. So can you give us those numbers? What's that look like for you?
Sure. I actually started writing proposals mainly for the industries, the small proposals. And actually, in the first year, I believe I submitted almost 7 proposals, which also includes the Army proposal. So the big one was the Army, and semi-big is the Google proposal. So 2 were funded out of 7 or 8 proposals that I submitted in the first year.
Yep. Thank you for that
Very
great
good.
question. That's such a great question because, you know, you can submit one proposal and feel discouragement. And really, if you talk to people who've been successful, it's a lot more than one proposal that that eventually makes you successful. We do have a question from Ramzan. You want to come on and ask your question?
Yes. Thank you, Sylvia. That was a very good research. My question is, I am doing machine learning. That's one of my research areas. And nowadays, machine learning is part of our lives. And you know, some of the decisions affect the people, basically. And for example, in our previous, in one of our research work, we were working with a biochemist. And we built a very highly accurate system, like 95%, 96%. And our biochemist, he was growing protein crystals. So he said that, you know, if you are missing even one crystal, I will not use your system because that's very important. So he said that he put maybe a week on it and then your system just misses it. It's not acceptable. So when this system, your proposed system to be deployed, how much accuracy do they expect so that they can deploy it in a real environment? So that's going to be my question.
I think that's a really good question. Well, we definitely expect something above 90% for that to be really deployed, especially in Army perspective, right? And even with like civilians, if it's an autonomous vehicle, right, we don't want the cars to do accidents. So the accuracy and the efficiency is very important. And so I'll say the same thing that I said, like right now, the autonomous vehicles don't include a lot of biomarkers, right? But that's something the industries are looking at. Many industries, they are actually building this ECG, the heart rate measurement with the seat belt. But we found that just relying on one signal is not good enough to be, for this kind of application. And we need to really do a multimodal fusion looking at different signals so that our system is very accurate and the chance of failure is very less. So if you just ask me a percentage number, right now, I don't know what is Army's goal, how much exact percentage they are looking for, but I know that they are definitely looking for a very high percentage, above 90% of accuracy for the system to be at least tested.
Thank you. Another question, and we also work on ECG data, and we work in a very closed environment where there is no noise, etc. And when the person drives a car, there will be lots of distractions, and all of them will be part of the noise over there. So were you able to come up with solutions for those? And this, I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a very big problem for biosensors, not only ECG, even for EEG, the brain signals. When you do any kind of secondary task, it picks up everything. So we are trying to filter, and especially in our data set, we actually have the driver passenger talking to each other, which adds to the ECG signal. So we are actually building an approach to filter out that effect so that we can just look at the ECG data and take out the talking perspective. And we have similar challenges for EEG data, especially for brain signal. Even if the person is having a different kind of thought, the signals gets really affected. So that's something we are looking at the filtering side to make it more clean.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ramzan. So there's a question here about what tools you're using to measure the biomarkers, but you're not actually collecting the data. You were given but do you know what tools they used?
Yeah, I do. So for the first 2 years, just to be specific, we are not collecting any data. So Army already has a real world data set collected on Maryland highway. And they used EEG sensors, they used ECG, heart rate, GSR, and they also used some sensors on the passenger seat to record the movement of the passenger. And they also used different cameras from different angles so that we can look at the head positioning and the eye gaze of the passenger and the driver. So yeah, we are not collecting any data at this point. Right now, for the first 2 years, our goal is to look at the passenger because we are using the passenger as a sensor to understand what is going on in the environment. And we want to validate and check how the drivers are behaving at the same situation, right? Because you might react different for a situation being a passenger, and your reaction might be totally different when you have control over the vehicle. And from the 3rd year, we want to record our data at the ARL facility. They have a simulator of combat vehicle simulator, and we will be using collecting our data, and we will be pretty much using the same sensors. The only addition will be using a perfect eye tracker to look at the eye movements of the driver and passenger.
So Sylvia, did you have to sign anything that says that you won't release your results to the public, that this is specifically for the Department of Defense or anything like that?
Office of Research already had a contract an agreement with ARL. So we are basically right now working on basic science. So we can definitely publish that result, but we cannot really talk too much in detail about the technicalities that we are working unless the papers are published. But the scenario is going to be a little bit different once we start collecting data in the ARL facility, because then it's going to be really confidential, few of the things, unless we publish.
Right. Good. There's another question here from Mark Guile. He says, you mentioned non-military applications. What's your best guess for how close we are to actually realizing driverless vehicles for deliveries, et cetera? And I feel like we asked Kevin McFall this when he did this show last year, but I am curious to know what you think about this.
I think it's pretty soon. I think everyone heard about the drones that Amazon is using in Seattle area for delivering packages, right? They are going to implement that soon. So I will say the driverless car, which is a level 5 autonomous car, that might not come until probably another 7 or 8 years. We already have smart cars. We are in the level 3 phase. We will definitely see a level 4 car like the Tesla, right? It can pretty much drive autonomously, but we are not going to see a driverless car until probably another 7 or 8 years. But they are already smart enough to make several decisions.
Okay, that time frame is way sooner than what I thought you were going to say. So
yeah. What I meant is that it's not coming next year. It's not coming in the next 2-3 years, but we are very close to it. So yeah, the time frame is 8 years.
Good. All right, keep bringing those questions in. We've got about 10 minutes left, and we're on a good roll. All right, I'll ask you a question while we're waiting for others to come in. So you have this great research project that you've launched. You've got students engaged. Tell me how the pandemic interrupted your work or didn't interrupt your work.
It actually did not impact my work for the Army project, because we are not collecting data, right? So we did not have to physically come to the lab. The data analysis was done from home. We had a little bit impact in the start date of the project because we posted for a postdoc position, and because of the pandemic, I guess we did not get enough response in the beginning. And then we found a lot of candidates applying, but by that time we had to already make a decision and hire PhD and master's students. But work-wise, we were not heavily impacted.
So you talked a little bit about the new PhD program coming from engineering. That was wonderful news coming out of your college this week. Do you envision having PhD students from data analytics being part of your team also?
I already have PhDs from the data analytics team working, but the PhD program in engineering is going to be very helpful because my project also needs signal processing expertise, right? And right now the undergraduate and the master students are actually from computer science, so they don't have specific hands-on experience on signal processing. The undergraduate students are too early. We are basically educating them and making them work on the project. But having a PhD student who has some hands-on experience and they have taken coursework on signal processing will be very helpful.
All right, I'm going to ask a question for my mother, who couldn't be with us here today. So she has a great fear that AI is going to take over the planet, that it's going to destroy humans. I don't think that's an out of the ordinary question because 60 Minutes just had an episode on this a couple of weeks ago. So from your perspective and your expertise, give me some words that I can use to comfort my mother on this.
Well, yeah, that's a concern for many people. So in the recent 60 Minutes, like Boston Dynamics mainly showed the athletic intelligence side of the robots that they are working on. I guess the concern is going to come when the robots are going to be highly cognitive intelligent, right? And probably one day they are going to be smarter than humans. But I still think we will not have a scenario like the movie Matrix, right? It's the world is conquered by the robots because we have the natural intelligence. We still have control on what we are building. So even if the robots are smarter, we are programming the robots in such a way that they don't do any bad things, right? We still have the control over the robots. So they will definitely take over a lot of industrial work, especially how, patients are getting treated, all these deliveries and the labor market that might actually face a challenge because robots are going to take over those jobs. But intelligence wise, even if they become smarter, I still think we don't have something to be really concerned about.
So, just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it. That's how the whole field of ethics plays a role. Is there a growing field of ethics within the world of AI?
There is. So I have been recently talking to one of the Army groups. So many people think that Army is going to actually deploy killer robots who are going to go to the war and destroy and kill people. But they are actually working on the ethical side. So that's actually not the true picture. We want to use the robot in a good way. So we are not definitely going to use the robot in a way that they can actually have an adverse effect to our society. So, but there is a growing concern. A lot of scientists is working on the ethical part of robotics, AI robotics, and that's I think a very growing and important area.
Do we include this discussion within the curriculum for our engineering students?
I think that will be that's a great idea. We can definitely do that. Yeah, sounds like a good thing.
All right, we're coming to the close of our happy hour. Are there any other final questions? Dr. Ferguson?
I was just going to say, pleased to have Sylvia here as a trailblazer in engineering. I think it's going to be. I think she just sets a really great example for other faculty within the department. It's always fun walking past her lab and seeing it as a hive of activity, even when she isn't there. And that's how you know things are getting done, right? When the lab is a hive of activity without the professor being there. So let's just say, appreciate having you here at Kennesaw State. And you should have one of our first PhD students, right?
Yes, that's definitely correct. Thank you, Dean Ferguson, for all the support, the department and college is providing for our success, and also the Office of Research. And thank you for putting the beautiful video in the beginning that you played. I really loved it. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for your time in this, Sylvia. It's been wonderful. So this wraps up our spring season of Research with Relevance. In the fall, I think you've heard me throw out a few teasers. We're going to have Research with Relevance again, but we're only doing 4 shows in the fall, and we're calling it our Dean's Showcase. And the first Dean that will be featured is actually right on my screen right now. So Dean Ferguson will be our kickoff Dean in August of this year, and we will also be featuring Ivan Pulinkala and Monica Swan and Kojo Mensah-Wilmot. So we're very excited about our shows for this fall. And if you look, I think Joelle just posted in the chat the dates and the dates for all of the deans that we'll be featuring in the fall. So we're looking forward to that and many other different programming things that this Office of Research will be bringing to you, and you'll be seeing some notices on that soon. So with that, we're going to close a couple minutes early. Again, thank you, Sylvia, and to my team for pulling everything together. And from the Office of Research, we say happy Friday, happy weekend. Hope you are safe, healthy, and happy, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.